right?
Well, from my perspective, the law is a touchy subject because we as a black community believe that there's a big percentage of select enforcement. What happens?
But you know,
in our
honestly,
community,
a lot of my black friends actually support the deportation of the illegal immigration
I
and
know
prosecution.
I know a lot of them.
So
I know a lot of them.
My point is, it's not,
But the law is relative. It goes with the time, right? There was a time where interracial couples couldn't get married. There was a time where, no lawyering was a law, wasn't a law until slavery was abolished, right? So the law changes.
And by the way,
with
just to
times.
point out, I've been in an interracial relationship for 4 years. My girlfriend, of 4 years, is a black Caribbean woman.
That's what's up.
So I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm sensitive to that.
Yeah.
Right. That was a thing. Would never stop me from going out in public with her here, Tennessee,
Correct.
Ohio.
Correct.
Because I'm not going to live my life
Yeah.
based on what
On
some
that
prejudices some people may still be harboring from 1958. Right?
Exactly. And I think that's why we're sitting across from each other.
Yeah.
Because somebody thought Charlie Kirk wasn't the way
Yeah.
and took actions into their own hands. And
Well, I think what they're, I made a statement online the other day, right? Because I keep hearing people say, well, if you didn't like what he had to say, you just didn't have to listen. Well, I don't think anybody, I don't think assassins kill because they don't like what you're saying.
correct.
I think they kill because they think other people are listening to you. And they think it's moving the needle, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's the issue, is that if Charlie Kirk was a nobody, just a
guy
big
with a
mouth
bullhorn,
at a diner,
Yeah.
I'm sure the guy would have killed him, right? The
Okay.
problem is because he has millions of followers
Absolutely.
and listeners. If you truly believe that his message is detrimental, not only to your own interests but to like the sovereignty of the country, because they call him a fascist or whatever.
Okay.
Then if you think that needle's being moved, then I think that, and it's a weird psychology, right? Let me put it like this. I think it was Valkyrie, where remember when they tried to blow up Hitler?
Okay.
But
That's the Brad Pitt movie?
yeah, but actually it was based on a true story. Right?
Okay.
And the one guy, but at the last minute, one of the generals moved the bag, so when it exploded, it didn't kill Hitler, but it killed like 4 other generals, right?
Got you.
In retrospect, if somebody killed Hitler, they would be looked at as a hero, right?
Yeah.
So it's subjective, and it has to do with, you got number one, the mindset of the person who's doing it, and then the mindset of the country, right? But if you've convinced yourself that this person's so evil, so bad for the country, so fascist, that it is that as a patriot, you have an obligation to do what you got to do to eliminate this. If you can get to that mindset, then it's easy, right? And I think that that's part of the problem. Is I think that our politics and our media is very connected right now. You've got liberal media like MSNBC, CNN, then you got Fox News on the right, and what's it called? Not
CNN?
Not News Nation, the other one, Newsmax, right?
Okay.
That are kind of like ultra conservative. Is that we not only just like vilify the other side, we demonize the other side, right?
Absolutely.
So
but that's the game.
But if I'm right, because there's money to be made in division.
Correct.
There's money
And
to
I
be
think
made.
Charlie Kirk tapped into that
And I think
financial gain.
I think he probably did.
Yeah.
Right. However, my point is, and this is where I'm saying holistically, it's a problem, right? Is that if you are watching these news sources and they have convinced you that Charlie Kirk, or let's just take a liberal, that AOC.
Yeah.
The AOC is a communist plant who is here to turn the U.S. into China.
Okay.
And is going to take all your money, is going to take all your guns, and you're going to be living under some type of liberal dictatorship. You're going to think that if you're a patriot, that you have an obligation to take her out if you have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's sick, right?
That's the American way.
But it's I don't know if I would say that's the American way. I think that's more like a third world nation way, right? And that's where I think we're starting to slip. Is that we've always wanted to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Now, obviously, I mean, you know what happened in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
In the assassination of John F. Kennedy, in the assassination of Martin Luther King.
Which was nonviolent. His whole thing was nonviolent.
Right. The assassination of Robert Kennedy, RFK. So Malcolm X, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that was a period of time when political violence was also a thing. But then we moved past
But
that.
there was a civil rights movement
Right.
underneath it going on.
Right.
There was riots and walks and all that
But
stuff.
then get in the 70s, 80s, and for the
Yeah.
most part, for the next 50 years,
Yeah.
we've enjoyed relatively, peaceful, like, discourse, right? Without there being assassinations.
That's debatable, but I understand what you're trying to say. Because from the beginning of time, I've experienced death by the hands of others,
Right.
death by thy neighbor, death by thy, community member across the road down the
Yeah.
street. And we as a black community have dealt with this underlying, gun violence prevention in the Virgin Islands. This just underlining so-and-so got killed, so-and-so got killed. So we have like this violent undertone
Right.
that we're used to. So now when Charlie Kirk falls to this demise,
Right.
we're quick to be like, man, people get shot every day, B.
Right.
Like that's our mindset.
But
It's a fucked up
but
mindset.
I think the difference is, I think the problem that people have with it. So first of all, if you actually watch Charlie Kirk's videos, right? One thing I got to give the man credit where credit's due.
Okay.
He was very anti-violence. His whole thing was that when you don't have discussions, when you don't have debates, that is how you slip into civil war because everybody runs to their corner.
Correct.
Right?
Communication.
His big thing is that dialogue.
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with him and he doesn't agree with you, you don't change each other's minds.
Yeah.
Respecting each other's opinions and having the dialogue, having the discourse, right? That is healthy in a democracy, right? So the guy was not a violent person. And you will not be able to show me a video that because I looked for him, right, to make sure that I was right, that I wasn't missing something. Right?
What's an example of violent though? Like meaning I'll shoot you if you come in my
Or like he
just
wasn't
direct-
promoting any form of violence. I've seen nothing online where he promoted any sort of violence towards anybody. He was a debater. That was his brand.
And that I understand.
That was his brand. Was debating.
Yeah,
Right?
but he was
good at
very condescending of everyone, and that doesn't go against him. I think that's his brand.
No, I think
right?
he's condescending, but also I
People
think.
lined up to be condescending.
Well, also I think that not everybody that went to the microphone
Was prepared.
was.
I think
was
he got
was-
sent too.
I think that you had a lot of people that go to the microphone with emotion.
Correct.
And not facts, right?
Correct.
Let's talk about something real quick that he's big on, right? That I know is perceived as racist.
Okay.
Let's talk about DEI.
Okay.
Okay, diversity, equity, inclusion, what that means, right?
Okay.
It sounds good on the face, right? When you talk about, and it's something he said, there was a comment that he made that people point to that they say, this is a racist, white supremacist comment. And he made a comment, and it's taken a little bit out, it's brash, right?
Yeah.
But you have to understand the context. He made a comment about, well, if I saw a black pilot on a United Airlines flight, I would wonder if they're qualified.
Okay.
Now, why is
Based on what?
why is
Go
that?
on.
Okay, now this gets into what is DEI.
Okay.
Diversity, equity, inclusion sounds good, right? Who doesn't want diversity, equity, and inclusion? I believe that everybody should have access.
Okay.
If you're qualified, you're the best, you should have access, right? And I believe in laws, anti-discrimination laws. So like, if you are the best pilot, Leon, and I don't hire you simply on the basis I hire someone inferior, and you're better, you should be able to sue me, right? And don't actually sue me. I get sued all the time anyway. But anyway, but you could. I would think you should be able to sue me.
Yeah.
Because that is discrimination, right? But what DEI actually establishes are race quotas.
Okay.
Right. So United Airlines was the example he was using, right?
Okay.
Currently, from what I've read, is that United Airlines has 8% of its pilots are black.
Okay.
Okay. They wanted that number to get to 50% by decree, saying that by 30, we must get to 50% black. The problem with that is, right, is that if that is the quota, if that is the mandate, right, at some point, if you are in the position of human resources where you have to fill these positions, and so now we're trying to get to 50%, right? And of all the applicants, I need to now increase it from 8% to 50, which is a 42% increase, right?
It's a lot.
And I have 100 pilot applications, right?
Yeah.
And let's say 25 are black, 75 are white, right? Inherently, I'm going to have to pick, if I as a mandate, I have to get to 50-50, I'm going to have to hire most of these 25 black pilots, even if they're inferior in skill to, I'm not saying all of them are, some might be the best. My uncle is black, right? And was one of the chief pilots of U.S. Airways before it merged with American Airlines. Probably one of the best pilots in the country at the time. Okay, so I'm not saying that you can't be the best and be black. What I'm saying though is, if it's a quota and you have 25 black pilots and 75 white pilots, and I have to get to 50%, inherently I am going to have to select a larger amount of the black pilots, even if they're not as skilled or not as qualified. So his point when he said I'd have to, if I went on to a United Airlines flight and I saw a black pilot, I have to question whether or not they're qualified. What I think he meant, obviously, like we were talking shock jock, right? Of course he says it in an inflammatory way. I would never say it like that. Yeah, well, they're trying to be, inflammatory, right?
Gotcha.
But the overarching point that he was trying to make is that individual may not have been the best of his class, right? Or of the talent pool that they had to hire from.
Correct.
But because they're trying to get to this 50% quota, they hired him anyway.
So speaking of that, mandate, that word, right?
Yeah.
What happens if they don't make their quota? In that situation, do you know the?
Well, I think it's an internal
extreme case.
So it's an internal policy.
Correct.
And a lot of those internal DEI policies were put into place because there's tax incentives for it.
No,
and
I
financial
understood
incentives.
that. So, like I grew up in urban programs,
Right.
high school programs. I was that little black kid that made the company look like they were giving back, right?
Right,
So,
right. And by the way,
I
affirmative
understand.
action programs, I believe. Listen, I believe in affirmative action to the extent that it tore down barriers at one point in time that were put up, right?
Gotcha.
For the black community, because that's an access issue, right? Nobody should be denied access simply because of your race, right? So let me be clear. However, in 2025, right, I don't believe that anybody should be given a special position or given admittance either simply because of your race, right?
Well,
I don't think because then at that point in time, that's no longer anti-discrimination. It's discrimination in reverse. That's a reparation.
Well, that's debatable, and I'll let you rock with that because I don't have a problem with anything.
But you can make that argument. Because I have friends that believe that there should be reparations paid to African Americans, or
to me that's another conversation.
But it's
personally.
But is it not a reparation?
Hell no.
Hold on
And
a
I'll
second.
tell you why.
If you're giving a job to somebody based on their color, who is not as qualified as somebody that's another color, and you're doing it simply for the sake of diversity, equity, and inclusion, is that not a reparation? Because you're getting what else is it?
No,
it's a gift.
It's a tax perk. They get an incentive.
but-
They get something from it.
Right.
They're not doing it because you're black. They're doing it
course.
because of the incentive.
Of course. But what
So-
created the incentive? Legislation that went through Congress, that was passed by Congress, right? And the rationale behind the legislation that created the tax break, right? Or the incentive or the borrowing incentive, the money or the grant incentive, was to move the workforce into being more evenly balanced, right?
Was there?
We got to keep in
I
mind.
don't know if you know about this in history because I don't.
Okay.
Was that the case when they allowed women in the workforce, or was it just they were at war and they needed hands on deck.
Well, you talk like the women's suffrage movement.
The 50s, or Yes We Can.
Yeah,
thing
yeah, that's
going
right.
on.
I think that obviously the war helped accelerate
Correct.
that. You know,
But there wasn't like a tax incentive.
There was not.
Exactly. So from
but that
my
was more.
point
That
of
was
view,
more of a women's suffrage movement, right?
I get that.
Right. And civil rights, by the way, it's
But
similar
is
to the
that
civil
not
rights
the
movement.
same?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
diversity in the
But
workforce.
this, right? But there wasn't real. There's not a. There's. Well, first of all, you know, most DEI hires are actually not even black. They're
I know.
They're white women.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
But when
But
it
he
came to
wouldn't say
women's,
that about a white woman pilot.
I think he would have actually.
He would have.
I think he would have actually.
He's
To be
that
honest, I think he would. I think he would have actually, right?
He's that guy.
Because
huh?
because it's true.
So